Before you scroll, before you doubt, pause for just a moment, because what you're about to hear is the kind of story that makes people stop, breathe, and believe again. A billionaire who could buy anything in the world discovered there was one thing money could not fix, until a quiet maid pulled something from her pocket that changed his son's life forever. If stories that touch the heart matter to you, take a second to like this video, subscribe to Untold True Stories, and stay with us, because this story stays with you long after it ends. The night the billionaire's son was born, the city glittered below the private hospital like a bowl of diamonds. The father, Adrian Vale, stood behind glass walls, watching doctors move with perfect confidence. He had conquered markets, crushed rivals, and bent numbers to his will. This was supposed to be the easiest victory of his life. When the doctor finally approached, the smile didn't reach his eyes. The words came carefully, softly, as if volume itself could soften truth. The baby was healthy in every way, but he could not hear. Silence fell heavier than any bad financial news Adrian had ever received. He nodded, shook hands, thanked the doctor, and did what he had always done. He controlled his face. But inside, something collapsed. They named the boy Leo. The mansion filled with the most expensive equipment, the best specialists, the smartest consultants. Screens flashed charts. Experts spoke in probabilities and options. Adrian listened, paid, nodded. Yet every night, when the house grew quiet, he would stand by Leo's crib and whisper promises the child could never hear. The soundproofed nursery felt cruelly ironic. Adrian began working longer hours, not because he had to, but because it hurt less than sitting in silence. The maid, Maria, had worked in the house for years. She was invisible in the way people with money often expect staff to be: efficient, quiet, unnoticed. She cleaned, cooked, folded tiny clothes with gentle precision. But she watched. She noticed how Leo's eyes followed vibrations, how his fingers curled toward movement, how he calmed when someone hummed near him, even if he couldn't hear the sound itself. Maria had lost her own brother to illness years ago, a boy born deaf in a village where doctors were hours away. She remembered the way her mother had learned to speak with hands, eyes, touch. One afternoon, Adrian came home early and found Maria sitting on the floor with Leo. She wasn't speaking. She was moving her hands slowly, deliberately, her face alive with expression. Leo laughed, an unfiltered, full-body laugh, and clapped his tiny hands. Adrian froze. He had spent a fortune chasing that soundless joy. "What are you doing?" he asked, sharper than he meant to. Maria stood quickly, apologizing. From her pocket, something slipped and fell to the floor, a small, worn notebook. Adrian picked it up. Inside were sketches of hands, notes written in careful ink, symbols he didn't recognize. Maria's voice trembled as she explained. It was sign language. She had learned it as a child to speak to her brother. She hadn't meant to overstep. She just couldn't help herself. Adrian looked from the notebook to his son, who was still smiling, eyes bright, waiting. In that moment, the billionaire felt something unfamiliar crack his certainty. "Show me," he said. Days turned into weeks. Maria taught, slowly at first. Adrian stumbled, frustrated with his own clumsiness. But Leo responded. He learned that hands could speak, that faces carried meaning, that silence was not emptiness. Adrian began canceling meetings. He sat on the floor. He laughed when he failed. For the first time, his power didn't matter, presence did. The shock didn't end there. Maria revealed she had also brought something else from home, a small device her brother had once used, a simple vibration-based learning tool designed to help deaf children feel rhythm and pattern. It wasn't a miracle cure. It wasn't expensive. But paired with patience and love, it opened doors. Specialists later refined it, expanded on it, but the seed at the spark came from a maid's pocket and a brother's memory. Adrian funded programs he had never noticed before. He learned that disability was not a weakness, but a different language of strength. He watched his son grow confident, expressive, brilliant in ways no test could measure. And every time Leo signed father, Adrian felt richer than any deal had ever made him. Years later, at a foundation launch supporting deaf children worldwide, Adrian stood on stage while Leo, now older, signed beside him. The applause was thunderous. Adrian didn't hear it the same way anymore. He felt it, in the room, in his chest, in the truth that the greatest transformations don't come from wealth, but from humility. This story reminds us that sometimes the answer doesn't come from the top, but from the quietest corner of the room. That listening isn't about ears, it's about heart. If this story moved you, let it move others. Like, subscribe to Untold True Stories, and remember, miracles often arrive in ordinary hands, waiting for someone brave enough to notice.